It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Tuesday, August 24th, and this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So what is going on today on this terrific Tuesday? We got some coronavirus updates, current news from around the world, looking into the book of Ezekiel, and of course, thoughts for the week. So, everyone, how are you guys doing today? Yes, I have like less than 2 days left. Literally less than 2 days. So it's kind of crazy for me. Yeah, I'm not sure what my feelings are. It's excited and scared and nervous and anxious all at the same time, but really just looking forward to what does God have in store for me. So I'm really happy and sad and whatever it is, all these mixed emotions here, but very grateful that God is leading me in a new direction, especially this week when it has to do with timing more than anything else. So I hope you guys are enjoying the week too. Thankful that you guys have joined us here on the Morning Star Drive. So keep liking and commenting. I want to hear from you guys and see how you're doing. Thursday night, well, in US time, it'll be Thursday night. In Asia, it's Friday morning. There'll be a new talk on my Espresso Sky YouTube channel. And of course, those of you who don't know, I'm gone full spiritual on this channel. I talked about the mark of the beast last week, what Sunseam, how Sunseam explains that. The week before was having longer prayers. And next week, or this week, I'm going to be doing kind of a reaction, but it's not a reaction, but I had these two comments on my last video on the Mark of the Beast. Very, very interesting because there's these Christian haters out there. They're just kind of name calling and stuff like that. So I wanted to address that. So it's kind of cool how I did this. But yeah, go ahead and watch that. Make sure you leave a comment below. That kind of feeds the algorithm to get these videos out more and more. And last Sunday edition, remember, we met Hiro from Japan via Australia. Great interview, learning about his journey into this history. Oh, no, it's not Hiro. Hiro was the week before. This week is BI from Malaysia, right? It's BI from Malaysia. She's been running in this history ever since she was young in her youth. She was in the modeling department and everything else. Super fun, insightful interview. Hope you guys really enjoyed, so make sure to check out the Sunday edition this week. Last night, we had the Monday Zoom Bible study. It's my last one here in Malaysia, so it'll be posted today by 11 a.m. So you guys can check that out on Patreon too. All right, so let's get this show started on the road. Who is today's feature artist of the day on this terrific Tuesday? It is none other than Dia Wings from Korea, and this is one of my favorite songs off, out of their entire library. This is one of my favorites. It's Round and Round. And then the second song is the Somni Boys from America with Facepalm. And then last but not least, we have The Sky from Japan with Home. So I hope that everyone, too, make sure that we keep all these member artists from around the world in our prayers and make sure that we give that prayer that gives them the blessing so that they can kind of reach and give the music with the great lyrics that comes only from the Lord.
어느 긴 밤 별한 나를 찾자 자꾸만 돌고 돌았던 어린 예전의 나 어둠 속에 밀려오던 그리움이 자꾸만 나를 삼켰네요 나도 나의 태양 떠나지 말아요 어딜 가도 운명처럼 정해져버린 나는 그대 주위에 맴도는 빛나는 별 순간의 어둠에 헤매여도 다시 자석처럼 이끌리는 강력한 새틀라이트 어디로 가는지 이래도 되는지 망설이던 찰나 돌고 돌아온 한참에 결국 찾아낸 요 유유히 흘러가는 강물이 다시 바다로 되돌아 흐르듯이 Round and round 깨어나 예상치 못한 드라마처럼 필름이 자꾸만 끊겨다 이어져 나는 나의 태양 곁에 있어줘요 흐르는 내 맘을 막아봤자 더 높이 차고 넘쳐 흘러 So do not stop me 강물이 바다로 흘러가 나 때문에 갇혀 막힌다 해도 그건 순간의 break 쏟아져 내리는 폭포같이 막힘없이 흘러 너란 바다로 흘러들어 돌고 돌아온 한점에 날 기다려준 you 유유히 흘러가는 강물이 다시 바다로 되돌아 흐르듯이 나 역시 오던 길을 되돌아 그대게로만 흘러가고 있어 Round and round and round 내 영혼이 그댈 찾아 Round and round and round 돌고 돌아 흘러가네 Round and round and round 돌고 도는 무한한 궤도 어느 순간 부딪힌 question 그대가 그린 선을 따라 You're the only answer Round and round and round 내 영혼이 그댈 찾아 Round and round and round 돌고 돌아 흘러가네 Round and round and round Round and round and round Round and round and round Round and round and round
I was sitting on the ground, few feet across from you. Then my brain shut down. Who am I? Oh no, I wrote all the things I wanted to say, but my tongue went hiding in, ran away. Oh no, now you're looking at me like I'm somebody crazy. Swear I'm just a normal person. Okay, maybe I have all your pictures on my wall in my room, my telephone, my bathroom, on my mama too. Oh, I wish it was easy to tell you my feelings. I don't want you looking at me like I'm silly. I'm so down when you give cold shoulder to me. I get excited when you always call out to me. What you feel about that? All the times I've been. Don't say what I feel. Give myself a face palm. Should I say something? I don't know, man. What should I do? I just want you to know me, want you to notice me. There's a lot on my mind, but it's processing so slowly. I had to sit back down, I couldn't really even think. I felt so stupid, I was just looking at you and you was looking at me like dang. I really just lost my chance, lost to a poem with a snack in my hand. I was just so down, man, I felt like a clown, couldn't even let it go that I frozen up again. Felt like I failed, but I've never given up. Took a big L and I didn't come in clutch. It's something about you that gets me all stuck. You made me so nervous, like I wish it was easy to tell you my feelings. I don't want you looking at me like I'm silly. I'm so down when you give cold shoulder to me. I get excited when you always call out to me. What you feel about that? All the times I've been. Don't say what I feel, give myself a face palm. I'm so down when you give cold shoulder to me. I get excited when you always call out to me. What you feel about that? All the times I've been. Don't say what I feel, give myself a face palm.
Wish I can do it again.
Give myself a face
Maybe
palm.
next time we'll work, it will be different.
Give myself a face palm.
I wish I can do it again.
Give myself a face
Maybe
palm.
next time we'll work, it will be different.
Give myself a face palm.
I wish I can do it again. Maybe next time we'll work, it will be different. I wanna tell you what I've been holding in. Maybe next time we'll work it will be different. Face, palm, face.
Give myself a
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 思い悩むことはない特に変わりはしないからいつもの笑顔のまま明るくやり過ごそう眉間にシワを寄せたあなたも可愛いけどその顔で長くいるのはとても疲れるでしょうさあ手を取って歩き出そう僕らの家へ帰ろう二人なら乗り越えられるから僕らの家へ帰ろうもうその涙拭って鼻水も噛んじゃいな繋いだ手固く握って離したりはしないから僕らの温かな方Home 帰ったらいつものさあ手を取って歩き出僕らの家へ帰ろう二人なら乗り越えられるから僕らの家へ帰ろう
And there you go. That is The Sky from Japan with the song Home. Before that, Some D Boys from America with Facepalm. And of course, the feature artist of the day, Dia Wings from Korea with Round and Round. So let's get into some news going on around the world. We'll start with coronavirus updates. We have 212.5 million cases in the world with 4.44 million deaths at a 2.09% mortality rate. Top 5 countries going by daily infection rates and daily death rates. And of course, every Tuesday, the numbers are very low for some odd reason. I'm not sure why. But all the numbers drop on Tuesdays only. And then starting tomorrow, everything goes back to normal. But the US, 30,000 cases, 198 deaths. India, 25,000 cases, 385 deaths in a single day. Brazil, 14,000 cases, 331 deaths. Russia, 20,000 cases with 762 deaths, and then France with 17,000 cases and 44 deaths in a single day. Over here in Southeast Asia, once again, you have Malaysia on top 19,000 cases, 232 deaths. And then you have Thailand with also 19,000 cases, 233 deaths. And then Indonesia drops down to 12,000 cases, which is good, but they still have over 1,000 deaths in a single day. So that is the coronavirus updates, top 5 countries, and also Southeast Asia. We're going to move over here to the top 3 news, current news of for today. We're going to go back to Afghanistan, and we're going to see that there's actually fighting going on with the Taliban and anti-Taliban resistance. And of course, those of you who don't know, there's also another group called ISIS, and these three are all fighting with each other. The Taliban says hundreds of fighters are heading to take Panjshir Valley. So anti-Taliban leader Ahmad Massoud calls for talks, but says forces are ready to fight if Taliban attempts to take the stronghold. The Taliban has said hundreds of its fighters were heading to the Panjshir Valley, one of the few parts of Afghanistan not yet controlled by the group. And since the Taliban overran Afghanistan, flickers of resistance have begun to emerge with some ex-government troops gathering in the Panjshir, north of Kabul, long known as an anti-Taliban bastion. Now, meanwhile, Ahmad Massoud, whose forces control the last significant anti-Taliban holdout, said on Sunday he hoped to hold talks peacefully with the group that seized power in Kabul a week ago, but that his forces were ready to fight. Now, Massoud, son of Ahmad Shah Massoud, one of the main leaders of Afghanistan's anti-Soviet resistance in the 80s, said his supporters were ready to fight if Taliban forces tried to invade the valley. Now, Massoud called for an inclusive, broad-based government in Kabul representing all of Afghanistan's different ethnic groups, and said a totalitarian regime should not be recognized by the international community. Meanwhile, there's also someone else named Khalil-ur-Rahman Haqqani, a leading Taliban figure currently in charge of security for Kabul, has echoed the group's claims that all Afghans should feel safe under their Islamic emirate and that a general amnesty has been granted across the nation's 34 provinces. But many Afghans are skeptical that Haqqani, a leader of the Haqqani network, known to be the most brutal and violent group associated with the Taliban and a man labeled a terrorist by the United States and the United Nations, will bring peace and security to Afghanistan. So there's one thing going on. The second thing, we're going to go over to the U.S. We talked about there's supposed to be a tropical storm warming in the East Coast, but already in the South you have Tennessee. Several have already been killed in Tennessee floods, and now there's still dozens missing. Rescue crews searching desperately for the missing as flash floods destroy homes, roads, and telephone lines in the state. Rescue crews have been searching desperately amid shattered homes and tangled debris for dozens of people still missing after record-breaking rain sent floodwaters surging through Middle Tennessee. At least 10 people were killed, including twin toddlers who were swept away from their father's arms, according to surviving family members. Now, authorities fear the death toll could rise. Now, the flooding in rural areas took out roads, mobile phone towers, and telephone lines, leaving families uncertain about whether their loved ones survived the unprecedented deluge. Emergency workers were searching door to door, and up to about 430 millimeters of rain fell in the county in less than 24 hours on Saturday, which is about 43 centimeters or 17 inches, appearing to shatter the Tennessee record for one-day rainfall by more than 76 millimeters. This is what the National Weather Service said. The hardest hit areas saw double the rain that area of Middle Tennessee had in the previous worst-case scenario for flooding, meteorologists said. Now, lines of storms moved over the area for hours, wringing out a record amount of moisture, a scenario scientists have warned may be more common because of global warming. And by Sunday, the floodwaters were gone, leaving behind debris from wrecked cars, demolished businesses and homes, and a chaotic, tangled mix of the things inside. So that is happening over there in Middle Tennessee. Last but not least, the last in the news, we have dozens are hurt as Israel raids Gaza and fires at Palestinian protesters. 2 Palestinians, including a 13-year-old boy, shot in the head by Israeli forces, are in critical condition. The Israeli military launched air raids on Gaza following clashes between its soldiers and Palestinian protesters during a demonstration to commemorate the burning of Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque 52 years ago. So in a statement late on Saturday, the Israeli military said it struck 4 weapons manufacturing and storage sites in Gaza belonging to Hamas, the group that governs the besieged Palestinian enclave. Now, 11 Palestinians were reportedly wounded. The raids came hours after Israeli soldiers opened fire on crowds of young Palestinians protesting at the fence separating Gaza and Israel. The Palestinian Health Ministry said dozens of people were wounded, including a 13-year-old Palestinian boy who was shot in the head. The Israeli military called the protesters rioters and said some had tried to climb the border fence and hurled explosive devices at soldiers. The military said it responded with riot dispersal means, including, when necessary, live fire. Now, the violence was some of the worst since a deadly assault by Israel on the Gaza Strip in May. In over 11 days that month, Israel pounded Gaza with air attacks in response to rocket fire from the enclave. So, that conflict ended on May 21st. But that violence on Saturday that just happened was the most serious during Palestinian demonstrations since the end of the weekly March of Return organized near the border between eastern Gaza Strip and Israel. So that's the top 3 news for today. Let's get into some sporting news. Let's start with boxing. And there was a major upset. Yordenis Ugas upsets Manny Pacquiao by decision to retain the WA title. Ugas accepted the assignment on 11 days' notice, scored a unanimous decision over Pacquiao on Saturday at T-Mobile Arena to retain his WBA super welterweight title, spoiling the festivities in an upset victory that establishes Ugas as a major player in boxing's best division. Now, all 3 judges scored the fight for Ugas, 116-112, 115-113, 116-112, and ESPN had it 116-112 for Ugas, who won as a plus 310 underdog, according to Caesars Sportsbook. In Major League Baseball action, Miguel Cabrera is now a member of one of the most exclusive clubs in baseball, and he put an exclamation point on his career when he became the 28th member of the 500 home run club with a 6th-inning blast for the Detroit Tigers on Sunday against the Blue Jays in Toronto. Last but not least, here's interesting news. In soccer news, Cristiano Ronaldo was dropped to the bench for Juventus' 2-2 draw against Udinese in their Serie A opener Sunday amid speculation surrounding his future at the club. So according to Sky Italy, Ronaldo requested to not start the match. ESPN reached out to Ronaldo's representative for comment. And Juve manager Massimiliano Allegri dismissed reports on Saturday claiming Ronaldo could leave Turin this summer, claiming the former Real Madrid player had told him he was going to stay. But if you look at that news and he's not even starting, it might be to keep him healthy for the transfer window that's happening in the summer. So that would be quite interesting to see if there is going to be a transfer of Cristiano Ronaldo from Juventus to another club. Some people are speculating Real Madrid, and others are saying PSG to join Messi. Either way, that is the worldly news for today. Hope you guys really enjoyed that, which means it's time, of course, this week's about time. It is time for the golden time of praise and worship to the Holy Trinity. We'll start off with the person following the Lord, and then let's sing the songs of love, and we'll end things off with set up the new sail. So, as one body of the Morning Star Drive, let's spend this time giving worship, praise, honor, and glory to the Holy Trinity.
That sun setting over the hill, just as the night grows dark and turns into the break of dawn. We teach you as we listen to the word of life. As the Lord listens us, so we yearn and longs for us, we too listen, so we long for you, Lord. Can anyone seize the person following the Lord? Can anyone stop that sun setting over the hill? Everything and everyone in this whole world may change. Oh, my heart is still longing for God's will eternally. Can anyone seize the person following the Lord? Can anyone stop that sun setting over the hill? Just as the night grows dark and turns into the break of dawn, we chase you as we listen to the word of life. As the Lord new Savior. So I'll quickly raise your sail in my heart. These waves won't stop me. I will overcome the seas of this world with your strength. I'll raise up a new sail, my Lord. I'll plant it in my center. I will act on your will with the mast and the sail of the Trinity's thoughts. I will keep them in my heart, and I will go until the very end. I've received such a blessed time. Even the rapture is mine. Now I'll surely set up the sail of the new what you gave. I'll rapture higher while fulfilling the purpose of God. I'll travel onward till I reach the goal. I'll always go on till the end. I'll raise up a new sail, my Lord. I'll plant it in my center. I will act on your will with the mast and the sail of the Trinity's thoughts. I will keep them in my heart, and I will go until the very raise up a new sail, my Lord. I'll plant it in my center. I will act on your will. The mast and the sail of the Trinity's thoughts. I will keep them in my heart, and I will go forever. I'll cast off the sail of the past. I'll spread the wings of history, and I'll take to the skies. I'll fly till I reach heaven's city of gold. With the power of my Savior, I can go until the very end. Until the very end. Until the very end.
And there you go. That is Set Up the New Sail, oldie but a goodie. Before that, let's sing the songs of love and, of course, the person following the Lord. So let's get into today's word study for today. And, of course, every single Tuesday we go into the scriptures for the week. And, of course, this week is the book of Ezekiel, and especially about the Valley of the Dry Bones. So let's take a look at Ezekiel and who he is and what his book is about. So Ezekiel, prophet who lived in Babylon. Right, he was the one that was taken away with Daniel when the Babylonians took over and they held them captivity. And also during the time there was a destruction of the first temple. And of course, among his famous prophecies in the book of Ezekiel, there's a vision of the divine chariot, the Valley of the Dry Bones, which is this week, and the third temple. Now, Ezekiel, He was born in the land of Israel to his father Buzi, a priest, and in there that he began his career as a prophet. Then in the year 3327, or we could say 434 BC, Jerusalem was conquered by Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar exiled the Jewish king Jehoiachin along with 10,000 captives, including the king's family, the nobility of the land, and the leaders of the army. Now, among the captives was the prophet Ezekiel. And Ezekiel spent the rest of his life in Babylonia, where he envisioned most of his prophecies. Now, Ezekiel's prophecies are unique in that they were experienced in Babylon, right? Although, as a rule, the divine spirit does not rest in the diaspora, nevertheless, since Ezekiel had already begun to prophesy in the land of Israel, he continued to do so after leaving it. Now, perhaps since he didn't dwell in the land of Israel, Ezekiel did not commit his prophecies to writing. Instead, the men of the Great Assembly, a group of 120 Jewish prophets and sages, they lived around 360 BC, accepted the task of compiling the book of Ezekiel. So many of the prophecies in the first half of the book of Ezekiel concern the imminent destruction of the temple in Jerusalem as a result of the sins of the Jewish nation, and it told that the people would not be receptive to his verbal messages and that he would have to remain mute and refrain from rebuking them unless given a message by God. So he was instead to accompany his prophecies with eloquent dramatizations of the events to come. So at one time, Ezekiel was instructed to take a brick and etch upon it an image of Jerusalem under siege. And as a symbol of the privations the Jerusalemites would undergo, he was told to knead dough from wheat, barley, beans, lentils, millet, and spelt. And this is a type of mixture that would be eaten only under dire conditions. And he had to bake it using animal dung as fuel and to eat small amounts of this bread for 390 days while lying otherwise immobile. Then, too, he was to take hair from his head and beard and enact with it the various fates of the Jews during and after the destruction, like burned, struck with the sword, scattered, and a precious few to be wrapped in his garments, representing the remnant who would survive the Babylonian exile and from whom the nation would be regenerated. So in one grievous incident, guys, this, like, if you haven't read it, it's pretty crazy. Ezekiel's own wife died in a plague, all right? And symbolizing the destruction of the delight of the Jews' eyes, the temple, in keeping with this symbolism, Ezekiel was told to follow his usual routine and eschew the usual mourning practices. Mourning not in the morning, but mourning for death, right? A true-to-life dress rehearsal of how the Jewish people would be unable to comfort one another because of their own grief, or perhaps unable to display mourning out of fear of the Babylonians. Now, ultimately, Ezekiel's prophecies all came to pass, and in the year 425 BC, on the 10th day of the month of Tevet, of course that's in Israel, God instructed Ezekiel, write for yourself this date. Today, the king of Babylonia laid siege to Jerusalem. In commemoration of this calamitous event, the 10th of Tevet in December or January is observed as a day of fasting and repentance. And then, of course, 3 years later, a fugitive arrived from Jerusalem and reported the terrible news. And a few months earlier, the city had been conquered and the temple had been burned. And after the temple's destruction, Ezekiel's prophecies carried a different spirit. Okay, so instead of the rebuker, all of a sudden he was now the comforter, foretelling better times when Israel would return to its land and God's spirit would rest among them once more. So he spent the first half of his book telling them of destruction. The temple is going to be gone. People are going to be sent, the Babylonian captivity. And then after it all came to pass, he became the comforter instead. And he's just telling people there was going to be better times. So one of Ezekiel's prophecies related to the long-lasting division of the nation of Israel into two kingdoms. This rift had been in place since the times of Rehoboam, son of King Solomon, from the tribe of Judah, when 10 of the tribes split from the other two and created a separate kingdom ruled by Jeroboam. And we know about this. That's the northern Israel and southern Judah. And Ezekiel was instructed to take two branches, upon one of which he inscribed the name Judah, and upon the second the name Ephraim. He was then told to hold the two branches together, and this symbolized that when the Jews would ultimately be redeemed from exile, the split between these two tribes would be healed, and the Jews would once again be ruled by a single leader. And one of Ezekiel's most famous visions, and that of the most famous visions, is from this week, the valley of the dry bones. And Ezekiel was transported to a valley filled with dry human bones, and he was told to instruct the bones to join together and to be covered with sinews, flesh, and skin. And this was followed by an instruction to the souls to enter the bodies and revive them. So the book of Ezekiel then culminates with a prophecy envisioned on Yom Kippur in 410 BC. 14 years after the first temple's destruction, Ezekiel saw himself being transported to the Temple Mount, there, where an angel holding a measuring rod gave him a detailed tour of the third temple, delineating the exact measurements of its various structures. Ezekiel was instructed to impart this vision to his brethren so that they would study the building's dimensions and be prepared to build it when the time would come. And in this way, the Jews heard a clear message. The temple's recent destruction was merely temporary, and an edifice even greater than the first would ultimately be erected. And then, of course, Ezekiel passed away sometime before the year 397 BC and was buried in Babylon, right? So, and then, of course, later Nebuchadnezzar died, and his son Evil Merodach, what a name, right? Evil Merodach, who assumed the Chaldean throne, released the Jewish king Jehoiachin from prison, and Jehoiachin, accompanied by a large entourage of Jews, visited Ezekiel's gravesite and built a magnificent tomb upon that site, which also served as a synagogue. So that is kind of like what is going on in the book of Ezekiel, and I hope it's something that you guys can see. He had a very, very important role, especially as one of the big prophets that was living at the time during the Babylonian captivity for 70 years. And he was someone that was even prophesying even before that. And yeah, it's really interesting. He was someone that just did exactly what God wanted. Like in the beginning, he became someone people hated because no one would listen to him when he said that you guys are going to be, like, our temple's going to be destroyed and we're going to be taken into exile. And no one listened to him. And then after it finally came to pass, you know, obviously people are going to realize who he is. He then became the comforter. And he in Babylon, as he's giving these revelations that he received from God, he was really able to kind of tell the people that, you know, he's someone just amazingly, he just did whatever God wanted. There was no complaints like, well, God, they're not going to listen to me because they didn't listen to me before. No, he did exactly what God wanted. So he is someone that many people look at as one of the great prophets. He's considered one of the four major prophets of the Old Testament time, which also includes Isaiah, Jeremiah. Is it Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and Daniel, I believe. I mean, is it Daniel the fourth one? I believe those are the four. Yeah, the four major prophets, especially of southern Judah. Okay, so that is the word study today for the book of Ezekiel. I hope it's something that kind of opened your eyes to that book. And if you can, go ahead and make a good read of it this week. Okay, so that means we're going to go into the song of choice for today. And of course, on every Tuesday, we're going to go into a Korean song. And today's Korean song is from one of my favorite singers of all time. Her name is Sohyang. She is like literally the same age as me. So amazing. And this song was taken from her performance in The Masked Singer. And it's called Hug Me, right? And this is a very moving and inspiring song. So I hope this can be something that can give you guys a little bit healing today. All right? So let's listen to Sohyang from Korea with Hug Me.
서러운 마음을 못 이겨 잠 못 드던 어두운 밤을 또 견디고 내 절망과 상관없이 무심하게도 아침은 날 깨우네 상처는 생각보다 쓰리고 아픔은 생각보다 깊어가 널 원망하던 수많은 밤이 내겐 지옥 같아 내 곁에 있어줘 내게 머물러줘 내 손을 잡은 날 놓치지 말아줘 이렇게 네가 한 걸음 멀어지면 내가 한 걸음 더 가면 되잖아 생각했어. 내게 했던 모진 말들, 그 싸늘한 눈빛, 차가운 표정들. 넌 참 예쁜 사람이었잖아. 넌 참 예쁜 사람이었잖아. 제발 내게 이러지 말아줘. 넌 날 잘 알잖아. 내 곁에 있어줘. 내게 머물러줘. 네 손을 잡은 날 놓치지 말아줘. 이렇게 네가 한 걸음 멀어지면 내가 한 걸음 더 가면 되잖아. 내겐 내가 없어. 난 자신이 없어. 네가 없는 하루 견딜 수가 없어. 이젠 뭘 어떻게 해야 할지 모르겠어. 네가 없는 날 그냥 날 안아줘. 나를 좀 안아줘. 아무 말 말고서 내게 달려와줘. 외롭고 불안하기만 한 마음으로 이렇게 널 기다리고 있잖아. 난 너를 사랑해. 난 너를 사랑해. 긴 침묵 속에서 소리를 외칠게. 어리석고 나약하기만 한 내 마음을 그냥 날 안아줘.
And that is Soyoung from Korea with Hug Me, and that's from her live performance in The Masked Singer in Korea. All right, guys, so let's get into today's last segment for today. And of course, today's last segment is going to be, it's going to be kind of my thoughts for the week. And I'm going to tell you that I was really inspired and moved by something that I was watching, okay? And it's a story, a doctor story, okay? So I was watching a story about a doctor, and this newlywed just got married, and from the wedding, her stomach started to bleed. She wasn't pregnant or anything else like that. And what eventually happens is they find out that the bride just got married on that day had cancer, right? And it wasn't something that was going to be like, you know, she's not going to die from it or anything else like that. But the surgery that had to be done, and they were asking her if they could do so, is eventually she would, it was just in a bad place in her stomach by the uterine wall, that eventually for the rest of her life, she would have to have, like, connected to her stomach is a bag that where she pees and she defecates in a bag every day for the rest of her life. And she's this young girl in her mid-20s. And of course, the husband just married her is also in his mid-20s. And she said she needed some time to figure out, right? She needed some time to make the decision. And the next day they come, the doctors come and say, hey, have you made your decision? And she says, no, I haven't. And one of the doctors there basically says, you know, what's the problem? Is it because, you know, well, it's a TV show, so the doctor's like, hey, is it because you don't want your husband to suffer together with you? And that became the issue. The ultimate decision, she couldn't make it because she didn't want her husband of 24 hours, to be stuck with her and take care of her for the rest of her life. And, they're both so young, and she doesn't have a choice, but yet he has a choice. So she wants him to break up and then just live his life and make his own choice, right? You just didn't want to subject him to just taking care of her for the rest of his life. He's so young, right? And then they're having the conversation on the spot. And of course, it's a very dramatic show. And basically, the man turns to her and just says something like really, like so simple, but it was really inspiring. And the man turned to her and says, I promised you, I vowed to you in sickness and in health. And he says, no matter what, I don't care. In sickness and in health, I will be with you. And he said, I want to stay with you no matter what. And after she heard that, she was like, all right. Then they had the surgery and everything else. And the inspiration was really interesting for this because I was really inspired by it. Because obviously, it's really moving because, in a show, you have like the music in the background and, it's like really like the actors are really playing it up. So it's really inspiring. But for me I got this really big inspiration from this. And I realized in my head, kind of the inspiration the Holy Spirit was giving to me is, even before the creation of time, God had made that vow to us. Right? He made that vow that no matter what, I will love you in sickness and in health, in good times and bad times. He's already made that vow even before the creation of the world. And at that point, when I got that inspiration, I was like, wow, that makes sense. Because when you look at the way we treat God, or the way that we make a lot of these mistakes, it's kind of like, well, God, like when we were servants, like how could you put up with us? Right? Why would you keep forgiving and loving us? Like, even for us, it is so ridiculous sometimes when we keep making the same mistakes. We're like, man, I would not take me back. There's no way I would forgive myself for that. Like, what is going on? God, why would you do this? Why would God just never stop, always take us back constantly over and over and over again? And it was really inspiring for me at that time. I'm not going to tell you if I cried or not, but it was so inspiring that for someone to make a decision in that situation, knowing how bad it's going to be for the rest of their lives as they're married together, but they're still okay with it. That was so inspiring and so moving. I was like, wow, God, you have made that vow with every single person here on this earth, even before they were born, that you would love them in sickness and health, in good times and bad times, that no matter what, even if, you have to keep changing these bags of urine and defecation, like you have to change these every day for the rest of your life. He says he's okay with it because he's promised. That's what love is, the promise to love no matter what until the very end. And that's when we get to understand even more when Sunseam says do it until the end, because God does until the end no matter what. There is never a giving up, and there's never something where God is saying that I will stop loving you, or I'll stop forgiving you, I will stop doing these things for you. But God will do it until the very end. And that's why we have to last. The reason why we don't make it to heaven is because we don't last until the end. But God is willing to do it. And I really, when I look at this complete testament time, you see that this was the day that God was waiting for, when the people would turn around to God, who's already made that vow, and say, me too. I will vow until the very end that no matter what happens, I'll stick with you. And this is why it's such an amazing, inspiring, and moving thing. It is so inspiring and moving and great in God's eyes. And I think we need to realize once again that this is something that we have to understand at the highest level of love. Yes, we would give up on people, and yes, we would not forgive people for certain things. But you look at God, I was just looking at God as this naive, a 25, 26-year-old just got married, and he says, I'll love you in sickness and health, and I don't care what happens. Right? And when I look at it, I look at myself and say, wow, it's me. I'm the one that's kind of jaded, and I'm the one that's kind of hardened, right? Because I wouldn't do it in that situation. But I realize, like, wow, God is someone who's already made up his mind even before we even said a word. And I think that's it comes from that verse in 1 John chapter 4, verse 20 that says, we love God because he loved us first. He really loved us first before anything else. And I hope that's something that can really inspire people too. I was inspired yesterday, so inspired watching this, like, wow, God, this is what you're saying to me right now, that it really helped me to have a really good prayer this morning too. Either way, I hope you guys are having a wonderful and awesome week. And this is Tuesday. This is I have one more day left. Wednesday night, I'm leaving. So my my Friday podcast will be in Dubai. So that would be kind of cool. You'll be in the airport, but it'll be quite fun. Okay, everyone, have amazing and awesome Tuesday. Hope you guys will really be able to just open your hearts even more to God and have an amazing, awesome week doing things at the right time. All right. So everyone, see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and feel your mind.
I'm burning with